The first attack came without warning. One moment, the stars over the medical frigate were calm and silent. The next, they were filled with burning ships and screaming alarms. The crew rushed through the halls as the sky outside tore apart under enemy fire. No one expected the war to reach this deep into the galaxy. No one thought the enemy would come for them here. But now they were here, and survival was all that mattered. Dr. Elias ran with the others, his white coat flowing behind him as the ship shook. He was a medic, not a soldier, yet fate had dragged him into the fire. He tried to focus, but the sound of metal ripping, the cries of the wounded, and the smell of smoke filled his senses. He clutched his medical kit tighter. He had saved lives. In peace now he would have to save them in war. Somewhere deep inside, a strange determination began to burn. The enemy was not human. They came from worlds of shadow, armored in dark plates that reflected no light. Their weapons cut through walls. Their voices were guttural roars that froze hearts. Soldiers tried to fight, but they fell one by one. In the chaos, Elias ran to the medical bay, hoping he could help the wounded. But what he found waiting there was something he had never imagined. She was lying on the medical table, blood glowing across her skin like burning fire. Her crown was broken, her body trembling, yet her beauty struck him silent. She was not human. Her form was sharper, her eyes brighter, her presence overwhelming. He had read about alien queens, rulers of empires that spanned systems, but he had never thought he would see one, much less one bleeding in front of him. And what shocked him most was not her wounds. It was the fact that he was still alive after touching her. Everyone knew the stories. Her blood was sacred and cursed. Anyone who touched it would burn, scream, and die within seconds. It was poison to all. Entire armies had fallen trying to capture her people, their warriors falling dead at the mere spray of her blood. Yet when Elias's hand brushed against her skin, nothing happened. His glove was soaked with glowing red liquid, yet he felt no pain, no fire, no death, only warmth. The alien queen's eyes fluttered open. For a moment, rage filled her gaze like she expected another enemy ready to finish her, but then confusion entered her expression. Her lips parted, her voice weak but still sharp like a blade. "You? Why are you not dead?" Elias's heart pounded. He wanted to step back, to let someone else handle this, but there was no one else. Soldiers were falling outside and the ship was burning. He swallowed and forced his voice steady. "I don't know. But if you want to live, let me help you." Her eyes locked onto his, searching, testing, as if the weight of her entire empire rested on this moment. The glow of her blood painted her skin in crimson light, making her look both terrifying and divine. She seemed ready to reject him, to spit in his face, but then her strength faltered. For the first time, the queen of an alien empire let herself fall into human arms. Alarms screamed louder as enemy ships broke through the hull. The frigate would not last much longer, but in that storm of destruction, one impossible bond had already been forged. A human medic had touched the untouchable and lived, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The ship's alarms were deafening. Red lights flashed across the ceiling as the walls shook from another direct hit. Dr. Elias tightened his grip on the alien queen's arm, feeling her trembling against him. Every instinct told him to run, to escape, but something deeper held him there. He could not leave her. Her blood still pulsed with a glow that lit the room like fire. It slid across his gloves and coat, sinking into the fabric, yet no pain touched him. The sight was terrifying and beautiful at the same time. The alien queen was sacred, feared, and untouchable. But here she was, leaning on a single human medic, for survival. "Move," she whispered, her voice strained but commanding. "They are coming." Elias nodded quickly. He pulled her arm over his shoulder and lifted her from the table. She was heavier than he expected, her crown and armor weighing her down, yet he forced his legs to move. Every hallway was filled with smoke and sparks, and the echo of screams followed them. The enemy soldiers had already boarded. Their shadows stretched across the corridors as they moved in formation, hunting like predators. Elias could hear them, those guttural growls that did not belong to any human throat. His heart raced, but he kept walking, step after step, the queen leaning on him. Why me? Elias asked, his voice barely audible over the chaos. Your blood should have killed me. Why didn't it? Her head turned slightly. Even weak, her eyes glowed with an unnatural light. I don't know, she admitted, her words bitter. No human should be able to touch me, not without dying. They reached a sealed hatch, its lock broken from the blasts. Elias pushed it open and stumbled into another corridor, carrying her weight as best he could. She pressed her hand against her side where the wound bled brightest. The glow spread over his coat, wrapping him in red light. Still, his body felt nothing but a strange warmth, as if the blood itself had chosen him. Then maybe I'm different, Elias said quickly. Almost to convince himself, she gave a weak laugh, low and sharp. Different, or cursed. Before he could respond, a roar echoed down the hall. Enemy soldiers rounded the corner, their weapons raised. Elias froze. He had no gun, no armor, nothing but a medical kit and the alien queen in his arms. They opened fire. The queen raised her hand. A wave of glowing blood lashed from her wound, spraying across the corridor. The enemy screamed as it touched them, their bodies convulsing before collapsing into lifeless heaps. The air filled with the smell of burning metal and flesh. Elias stared, his stomach turning, but his grip on her never loosened. Her body sagged after the effort. The attack had cost her what little strength remained. She gasped and clutched at Elias, her face pale. Hurry! I cannot hold them off again. Elias forced himself to move, dragging her toward the escape pods. His legs burned, his lungs ached, but he pushed forward. Behind them, more soldiers roared. The ship shook again, louder this time, as if it was tearing apart piece by piece. Finally, they reached the pod bay. Half the pods were gone, ejected in panic. One remained. Elias guided her inside, lowering her into the seat. Her head rested against the wall, her breathing shallow, yet her eyes never left him. You saved me, she whispered, disbelief in her tone. No one has ever touched my blood and lived. No one has carried me without burning. Why you, human? Elias strapped her in and met her gaze. He had no answer, only a burning feeling in his chest, a mix of fear and determination. I don't know, but I won't let you die. He slammed the pod's control panel, and the door sealed shut. As the escape system roared to life, the last thing Elias saw through the window was the burning frigate breaking apart in the void. Then the pod, shot into space carrying a human medic and the most dangerous queen in the galaxy together, into the unknown. The escape pod drifted through the void, shaking as it broke free of the frigate's destruction. Elias held his breath, staring at the blackness beyond the small viewport. Stars stretched endlessly, silent and cold, yet behind them, the glow of the ruined ship still burned like a dying sun. He had seen death before, but never on this scale. The alien queen sat strapped beside him, her body still glowing with faint crimson light. Her breathing was shallow, uneven, but her eyes remained open. Even weakened, her presence filled the pod like fire. Elias could feel it, as if the air itself bent around her. She was not just another patient. She was power and danger, and something he barely understood. Minutes stretched into hours. Elias worked with shaking hands, pulling out the medical kit. He cleaned her wound, pressed sealant foam to stop the flow, and wrapped it tight. Every time his fingers touched her skin, he expected agony, burning, death. But the warmth never harmed him. Her blood soaked into his gloves, into the bandages, but he was untouched. The impossible truth was clear now. He alone could treat her. She watched him work, her gaze sharp despite the pain. You know who I am, she said finally, her voice quiet but steady. Elias hesitated, then nodded. You're a queen, an empress maybe. I've heard the stories, about your blood. About what? Happens to anyone who tries to fight your people. Her lips curved in the faintest hint of a smile, bitter and tired. Stories, yes. Your kind calls me a weapon, a curse. Some worship me as a goddess, but I am not divine. I am flesh and bone, like you. Except my blood is war. Her words sent a chill through him. He tightened the bandages around her side, focusing on the task. If your blood kills everyone, then why doesn't it kill me? Her eyes narrowed, studying him as if he were the puzzle, not her. That is the question, isn't it? The pod beeped suddenly, breaking the silence. Elias leaned forward, checking the small screen. It showed their trajectory, falling toward a planet ahead. The pod had chosen a landing site, guided by emergency protocol. He swallowed hard. Whatever waited below would decide their fate. The Queen's head tilted weakly toward the viewport. The planet glowed blue and green, covered with oceans and forests, shining like a jewel in the darkness. This world, it is unclaimed, she whispered. Untouched. A place without war. The pod shook violently as it hit the atmosphere. Flames licked the windows, the roar of entry filling the cabin. Elias gripped the straps tight, glancing at the Queen. She didn't flinch. Her gaze stayed locked on the world below, her expression unreadable. They crashed through clouds, then struck the surface with a bone-rattling impact. The pod slid across dirt and stone before finally stopping. Smoke hissed from the edges as silence returned. Elias unstrapped himself and forced the hatch open. Fresh air rushed in, damp and heavy with the smell of trees and earth. He stumbled outside, blinking in the sunlight. Around them stretched endless forest, thick and wild with mountains in the distance. The pod sat smoking in a clearing, like a scar on untouched land. He turned back and helped the Queen out. Her steps were slow, unsteady, but she held herself, with a dignity that no wound could erase. She stood tall, her crown cracked but still shining, her eyes glowing faintly in the light. This world may hide us, she said, her voice stronger than before, but others will come. They will not let me live, and they will not let you live now either. Elias frowned. Why me? I'm just a medic. I didn't choose this. Her gaze burned into him. Because you touched my blood, because you lived. That makes you part of my fate now, human. And whether you want it or not, the galaxy will come for us both. Elias felt the weight of her words settle on him like chains. Somewhere deep inside, he understood she was right. Whatever strange bond tied them together was no accident, and it was only the beginning. The forest around them was alive with sound. Strange birds shrieked from the branches, and unseen creatures rustled in the undergrowth. The air was damp, heavy, filled with the scent of moss and rain. Elias helped the alien Queen walk farther from the smoking pod. They needed distance. The pod would be a beacon for anyone chasing them. Her steps were slow, each one costing her strength. But her back was straight, her gaze sharp, as if she would never allow herself to appear weak. Elias carried what he could: medical supplies, rations, a small survival kit. It wasn't much. On this wild world, survival was already uncertain. They reached a stream and paused. Elias knelt to fill a container with water, his hands shaking from exhaustion. He glanced at the Queen. Her crown caught the sunlight, cracked but still glowing faintly, making her look both regal and wounded. She watched the flowing water, her reflection flickering across the surface. You shouldn't be moving so soon, Elias said quietly. The wound does not matter, she interrupted, her tone sharp. What matters is what comes after. Elias frowned. You mean your enemies? She turned to him, her eyes glowing faintly red. They will not stop. The moment they sense I still breathe, they will come. And when they find us, they will burn this world to ash. Her words sent a chill down his spine. He thought of the frigate, of the soldiers falling in seconds when her blood touched them. He thought of the impossible fact that he had survived. That touch. Why him? Why now? Before he could answer, the forest itself gave a warning. A low growl echoed from the trees. Elias froze. The queen straightened, her body tense. From the shadows stepped a creature unlike anything Elias had seen. It was massive, its body covered in dark scales, its eyes burning with yellow fire. Its claws sank deep into the earth, and its mouth opened to reveal rows of jagged teeth. The beast moved low, stalking them, its growl rising like thunder. Elias felt his heart pound in his chest. He had no weapon, no defense. He glanced at the queen, expecting her to unleash the deadly spray of her blood again, but her strength was gone. She swayed on her feet, her face pale. The beast charged. Elias acted without thinking. He grabbed a metal shard from the wreckage, near the pod, a jagged piece of hull, and held it like a blade. The creature slammed into him and he stumbled, raising the shard desperately. Claws scraped past him, tearing his sleeve, but he stayed standing. The queen raised her hand, her blood glowing, but Elias shouted, "No! Save your strength!" He swung the shard, slashing across the beast's snout. It roared, pulling back, in pain. Elias's arms shook, but he stood his ground. For the first time, he felt the strange fire in his veins, the same warmth he had felt when her blood touched him. It gave him strength. The beast lunged again, and Elias stabbed with all his force. The shard drove into its eye. The creature screamed and collapsed, thrashing before finally lying still. Silence fell again, broken only by Elias's ragged breathing. His hands trembled, blood and sweat mixing on his skin. He looked at the queen. She stared back at him, her eyes wide, not with fear, but with something close to awe. "You fought it," she whispered. "Without my blood, without my power, you stood." Elias dropped the shard, his chest heaving. "I didn't have a choice." The queen stepped closer, her gaze fixed on him. "No human should have done that. Not against a beast like this. Yet you did. And when my blood touched you, you did not die. Perhaps it is not just survival that ties you to me. Perhaps it is something more." Elias looked at her, confusion and fear battling inside him. He had saved her, yes. But now, the galaxy's most feared queen was beginning to see him not as chance but as destiny. And destiny, he knew, could be more dangerous than any war. Night fell quickly over the wild world. The forest glowed with strange light, plants pulsing softly, insects shining like drifting embers. Elias sat near a small fire he had built, his eyes fixed on the flames. Across from him, the queen rested, against a fallen tree, her wound bandaged but still glowing faintly beneath the cloth. She looked otherworldly in the firelight. Her eyes reflected the flames, sharp and unyielding, while the crown above her brow cast shadows across her face. Even weakened, she carried herself with the presence of someone who had commanded armies and ruled empires. Elias could hardly believe she was sitting with him, sharing the same fire. Silence stretched between them until she finally spoke. "Your people call me the Blood Queen." Elias lifted his head. "I've heard the stories. They say your blood is a weapon. That entire fleets fell because of it." Her gaze did not waver. "It is true. My blood burns all who touch it. It was both my shield and my curse. Enemies feared me. Allies worshipped me. But I could never be touched. Not by anyone. Not even my own people. I was alone, even as I ruled." Elias looked at his hands, still faintly stained from treating her. "But I touched you, and I'm still here." Her voice grew quieter. "That is why you are dangerous. To me, to my enemies, to the galaxy itself. You broke the one law written in my blood." Before Elias could answer, the night broke with a new sound. The sky split with the roar of engines. He looked up through the trees, his heart sinking. Bright light streaked across the heavens, descending fast. "They've found us," the queen said, her tone calm but cold. Elias jumped to his feet. "How?" The pod was a beacon," she said. "It broadcast until it died. They will come in numbers, and they will not stop. The forest shook as dropships landed in the distance. Shadows poured out, moving in formation, their guttural voices echoing through the night. Elias grabbed the shard of metal he had used earlier against the beast. His hands shook, but he forced himself to stand ready. The queen rose slowly, her body still weak, but her presence commanding. She placed a hand on her wound, blood seeping through her fingers. The glow spread brighter, casting red light over the trees. "Stay behind me," Elias said quickly. Her eyes narrowed. "You would protect me?" He gave a shaky laugh. "I'm a medic. Protecting people is what I do, even if they're alien queens with deadly blood." She studied him for a moment, then gave a small nod. Together they turned toward the sound of approaching soldiers. Figures emerged from the forest, tall, armored, their weapons glowing with cruel light. They advanced in silence, spreading out to surround the clearing. Elias's chest tightened. He was only one man with a shard of metal. But then he felt it again, the warmth inside him, the strange fire that had been growing since he touched her blood. The first soldier charged. Elias moved without thought, swinging the shard. It clashed against the enemy's weapon, sparks flying. He shoved forward with strength he didn't know he had, driving the shard into a gap in the armor. The soldier fell. Another raised a gun. Before Elias could react, the queen unleashed her power. Blood sprayed from her wound, glowing like liquid fire. It struck the soldier's armor, searing through it instantly. The enemy collapsed, screaming, then silent, but the effort nearly dropped her to her knees. Elias caught her, holding her steady. She looked up at him, her eyes burning. "Together," she whispered. Elias nodded, tightening his grip on the shard. More soldiers advanced, their shadows filling the clearing. The firelight flickered across their weapons, across the queen's glowing blood, and across Elias's face. No longer just a medic, but a man standing in defiance of an entire empire. The battle for survival had begun. The forest blazed with fire and chaos. Sparks rained through the branches as weapons lit up the night. Elias fought with raw desperation, his shard of metal clashing against armored soldiers who should have outmatched him. But each time he swung, his arms felt stronger, faster, steadier than they ever had before. He knew it wasn't normal. Something burned inside him, the same warmth that had first stirred when her blood touched his skin. It pulsed with every strike, guiding his movements, keeping him alive. The alien queen stood at his side, weak, wounded, yet still she fought. Every time her glowing blood lashed out, enemies dropped instantly, their bodies writhing before falling still. But each attack drained her further. Elias could see her shaking, her face pale, her breaths shallow. She was powerful, yes, but also fragile now. And without her, he would be nothing more than another body in the dirt. "Keep moving," Elias shouted, pulling her toward the trees. They stumbled deeper into the forest as soldiers gave chase. Bolts of energy cut through the air, burning tree trunks and sending bursts of fire into the night. Elias ducked, dragging her behind cover. His heart thundered in his chest, but his grip on the shard never loosened. "They won't stop," the queen said through clenched teeth. "Not until you are dead." Elias frowned. "Me? Why me? They came for you." Her gaze burned into him. "No, they came for what you are now. You touched my blood and lived. That makes you a threat they cannot allow to exist." The words hit him harder than any weapon. He wanted to deny it, to say he was just a medic, just a man who happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. But deep down, he knew she was right. Whatever bond tied them together was more than chance. The soldiers closed in, their growls echoing through the trees. Elias pressed the queen against the roots of a massive tree, shielding her with his body. "Stay here. I'll hold them." Her eyes narrowed. "Foolish human. You cannot fight them all." Elias gave a shaky smile. "Maybe not, but I can buy you time." He stepped out from cover as the first soldier approached. The enemy raised his weapon, But Elias moved faster than he thought possible. He knocked the gun aside and drove the shard deep into the armor's gap. The soldier fell and Elias spun, striking another before he could aim. It felt impossible. His reflexes sharper, his strength greater. His body moved as if guided by something beyond him. He realized with a shiver that the fire inside him was growing. The queen watched, her expression unreadable. She had seen warriors, champions, killers, but never a human like this. Each time Elias struck, her blood on his clothes glowed brighter, as if responding to him, as if it had chosen him. The soldiers faltered. One shouted something guttural, a word Elias couldn't understand, but the fear in their tone was clear. They began to retreat, disappearing into the trees. Silence returned, broken only by Elias's ragged breathing. He staggered back to the queen, dropping to his knees beside her. His arm shook, his chest burned, but he was alive. The queen studied him closely. Your body should not endure this. My blood should have burned you from within, not strengthened you. Elias met her gaze, his voice rough. Maybe I was meant to find you. Maybe that's why I survived. For the first time, her face softened. She reached out, her hand brushing his cheek. The touch was warm, glowing faintly with her blood. Perhaps fate has bound us. Elias didn't know if he believed in fate, but as the night pressed around them and the forest smoldered with the remains of battle, he felt one truth burning in his chest. He was no longer just a medic, and the galaxy would soon learn it too. Dawn broke across the forest, the first light cutting through the smoke that still lingered from the night's battle. Elias sat near the queen, his back against the trunk of a tree. His body ached with exhaustion, his hands stained from blood, hers and theirs. But what troubled him most wasn't the pain. It was the fire inside him, growing stronger with every passing hour. He looked down at his arms. The faint glow of crimson traced across his veins, pulsing softly beneath the skin. It was subtle, but it was there. Her blood hadn't just spared him. It had become part of him. The queen watched him silently, her eyes sharp even in her weakened state. Finally, she spoke. You feel it, don't you? Elias looked up, uneasy. The warmth. It's inside me. Like it's alive. Her gaze did not waver. It is alive. My blood carries power, yes, but also memory. It remembers every life it has ended, every battle it has won, and now it flows through you. Elias's chest tightened. So what does that make me? Some kind of weapon? Her expression hardened. It makes you impossible. No human, no creature in the galaxy has ever survived it. Yet you not only live, you grow stronger. That is why they will hunt you. Not only for me, but for you. Elias shook his head. I didn't ask for this, I just wanted to save lives, not end them. Her voice softened, though her eyes stayed fierce. You saved mine, and in doing so, you changed both our fates. Before Elias could reply, the ground trembled. Birds scattered from the trees, their cries sharp in the morning air. A deep rumble followed, like thunder rolling beneath the earth. Elias grabbed his shard of metal and stood, his eyes scanning the forest. The queen's expression darkened. They've sent something stronger this time. The trees shook as a massive figure emerged from the shadows. It wasn't just another soldier. It was a war beast, towering over them, armored in thick plates of dark metal and bone. Its eyes glowed like burning coals, and chained to its back was a rider in black armor, wielding a weapon that hummed with deadly energy. Elias's stomach twisted. How are we supposed to fight that? The queen stood, though her body still trembled from her wound. We don't run. Not from this. If you are what I think you are, then now is the time to prove it. The beast roared and charged, tearing through trees like paper. Elias braced himself, the shard of metal feeling small and useless in his hands. But as the beast thundered closer, the fire in his blood surged. His vision sharpened, his heartbeat slowed, and the world around him seemed to move slower. The rider raised his weapon, but Elias was already moving. He rolled aside as the beast slammed into the ground, then leapt onto its flank with strength he didn't know he had. The shard drove into a joint in its armor, sparks flying. The beast roared, thrashing, but Elias held on, his muscles burning, with unnatural power. The queen raised her hand, glowing blood spraying across the beast's side. Its armor hissed and cracked, leaving it exposed. Elias struck again, this time sinking the shard deep into its neck. The beast screamed, staggering, before collapsing into the dirt with a final shudder. The rider leapt free, landing with a crash. His weapon swung toward Elias, glowing with deadly light. Elias barely blocked, the clash sending a shockwave through his arms. The fire in his blood flared hotter, guiding his movements, keeping him alive against a foe that should have killed him instantly. The queen stepped closer, her voice carrying across the clearing. "Do you see it now, Elias? My blood has chosen you, not as a servant, not as prey, but as something greater." Elias locked blades with the rider, their faces inches apart. His voice came out as a growl. "Then I'll use it to keep us alive." With a surge of strength, he twisted the shard, disarming the rider and driving him to the ground. The battle was over. The queen looked at him, her eyes glowing brighter than ever. For the first time, there was no doubt in her voice. "You are no longer just human. You are the first to carry my blood and live, and that makes you more dangerous than even I could ever be." Elias stared at his hands, the faint glow pulsing, stronger now. He didn't feel like a hero. He felt like something the galaxy wasn't ready for, and he knew Part 8 would bring the final reckoning. The smoke of the battle still clung to the air when the sky above them split open. Ships descended. Through the clouds, dozens of them, their hulls black, their lights piercing the forest like burning suns. Elias felt the ground tremble beneath his feet as more soldiers poured from the dropships. This time it was not a small squad. It was an army. The queen stood beside him, her body weakened but her eyes burning with defiance. Even wounded, her presence seemed to challenge the fleet itself. Elias gripped his shard of metal, though he knew it would never be enough against so many. His blood pulsed with crimson light, burning hotter than ever. But even that power had limits. "They won't." "Stop," Elias muttered, his throat dry. "They'll keep coming until one of us is dead." The queen's gaze stayed locked on the descending ships. "Not one of us," she said coldly. "Both of us. They fear you now as much as they fear me. They cannot allow our bond to exist." Elias's chest tightened. He wanted to deny it, to tell her she was wrong, but deep inside he knew she was right. The galaxy was watching, and it would not forgive what had happened here. The army spread out, weapons ready, their commander stepping forward. His armor was heavier than the others, black as stone, his voice carrying across the clearing. "Blood Queen, human, your existence together is a violation of every law, every truth written in fire. Surrender, or we burn this world and scatter your ashes to the stars." Elias looked at the queen. Her eyes met his, calm but unyielding. "This is where we decide," she whispered. "Life or death." The fire in Elias's veins surged, brighter than before, so strong it made his skin glow. He stepped forward, his voice carrying across the field. "You're afraid. Afraid of her, afraid of me, but we are not your enemy. We're proof that your fear is wrong." The soldiers shifted uneasily. Some gripped their weapons tighter, but others hesitated, glancing at one another. The commander growled. "Lies. Her blood kills all who touch. It always has." Elias raised his hands, glowing faintly with crimson light. "Then explain me." The silence that followed was heavy, broken only by the crackle of burning trees. The army had no answer. The impossible truth stood before them, and it was alive. The queen stepped forward now, her voice strong despite her wound. "For centuries, my blood has been a curse. It destroyed armies, built empires, and left me alone in power. But this human, this medic, touched it and lived. He is proof that fate itself can change, that we are not bound to the old laws." Her words rippled through the soldiers like fire. They had been raised to fear her blood, to worship its curse. But now they saw her standing side by side with a human who should not exist, and yet did. The commander raised his weapon, his rage boiling over. "Then both of you die here," he charged, but Elias moved faster. The fire inside him blazed, brighter than ever before. He caught the commander's strike, twisted the weapon aside, and slammed his shard into the armor. Crimson light surged through the wound, burning like the queen's blood itself. The commander fell, silent and still. The army froze. None stepped forward, none fired. For the first time they hesitated, not out of fear of her, but of him. Thag. Queen looked at Elias, her voice quiet but filled with certainty. "It is done. You are no longer just a man. You are the proof that my curse is not unbreakable. You are the first of something new." Elias looked at the soldiers, then back at her. He didn't feel like a king, or a god, or a weapon. He felt like a medic who had chosen to save one life, and in doing so had changed the galaxy. He reached out, and for the first time, she took his hand without fear. Her glowing blood touched his skin, and together they stood as one, human and queen, life and death, curse and cure. Above them, the ships remained still. No fire came, no attack followed. The galaxy had witnessed the impossible, and nothing would ever be the same again.